each one of us to lead holy lives. There have been certain instructions as a Christian, as a follower of Christ, that we have to follow. Lead a holy life, lead this life on earth as Jesus lived. That is very important. Not drink any wine or beer or any forbidden food. So we should really understand this concept and believe it, trust God and follow it for getting blessings in our life. We need to obey God. And it says, after your son is born, never cut his hair, because from the day of his birth, he will be dedicated to God as a Nazarite. And he will start the work of rescuing Israelites from the Philistines' grip. So then what happens is, Manoah asks the angel that, tell us your name so that we can honor you when your words come true. And the angel asked, why do you want to know my name? It is a name of wonder. And then Manoah offers a sacrifice, a young goat and some grain, and offers them on the rock altar to the Lord. And it was offered to a God who works wonders. Yes, today also God does many wonders in our life. So don't fear, don't look back, don't look back like what Lot's wife did and was turned to a pillar of salt. So God is the one who does wonders in our everyday life. He is a living God. Can we all trust Him? Can we join hands and pray together for the salvation of all people? Please subscribe to this channel Without Fail Bible Preaching for Salvation. It will be a great blessing in your life. And share Jesus' message to everyone nearby. And if any member in your family is not saved, does not know Jesus, does not follow Jesus, or just by blindly following customs and some good deeds doesn't make us accept salvation in our lives, but it is accepting Jesus in each of our hearts. Just remember that. Now we see Judges 13 verse 24, the woman gives birth to a son and names him Samson. The child grew and the Lord blessed him, and the Lord's power began to strengthen him while he was between Zorah and Eshtaol in the camp of Dan. Yes, friends, we see that how Samson had great power from God. And what we see here is that what all mighty deeds he did. Power of the Lord made Samson strong. He tore a lion apart with his bare hands as if it were a young goat. But he did not tell his parents what he had done. Judges 14 verse 6. Then we see here further what all Samson did. Samson says in Judges chapter 15 verse 3, Samson says, this time I am not going to be responsible for what I do to the Philistines. And he went and caught 300 foxes, 2 by 2. He tied their tails together and put torches in the knots. And he set fire to the torches and turned the foxes loose in the Philistine cornfields. And he burnt up not only the corn that had been harvested, but also the corn that was still in the fields and the olive orchards as well. And see what great damage Samson did, and his might and his wisdom, and how strong he was, because he was the child from God. He had a purpose in his life. Similarly, each one of us has a purpose in our life. So remember that God's love is for each one of us. He cherishes us. God wants to bless you abundantly. Let's be in God's promises. Now we see here further Samson defeats the Philistines. And what we see here, that after he attacked, he let the foxes loose, and after this attack he went and stayed in the cave in a cliff at Etam. And after that the Philistines came and attacked and took Samson as a prisoner, and they tied him up with 2 new ropes and brought him back from the cliff. Then what happens? We see in Judges chapter 15 verse 14, suddenly the power of the Lord made him strong, and he broke the ropes round his arms and hands as if they were burnt thread. And what did he do? He found the jawbone of a donkey that had recently died. He bent down and picked it up and killed 1,000 men with it. And he sang. What did he sing? With the jawbone of a donkey, I killed 1,000 men. With the jawbone of a donkey, I piled them up in piles. Yes, friends. So we see here that this particular hill where the place where this happened, it was named as Jawbone Hill because of the great act that Samson did here. So we see how power of the Lord made Samson strong and did great wonders and victories for Samson. Further in verse 18, we see here Samson became very thirsty, so he called to the Lord and said, "You gave me this great victory, and now I am going to die of thirst and be captured by these heathen Philistines." Then God opened a hollow place in the ground there at Lehi, and water came out of it. Samson drank it and began to feel much better. So the spring was named Hakore, and it is still there at Lehi. And Hakore means caller. So we see here, whenever we are in trouble, whenever we are in thirst, where do we look? Do we look to man, or do we hope in God? There is a God who is there waiting to help us, who is looking at our needs, who is looking from above, and who is near us than any man can help. He is the one who will answer you when you call. That is what Psalms, in the book of Psalms, David sings songs of the mightiness, the power of God, and how He answers when we are in tears, when we are broken, when we are in harm. He is the one who will send some help from somewhere. So just don't fear. We see Samson led Israel for 20 years while the Philistines ruled the land. There came trouble in Samson's life when he met Delilah. Samson fell in love with a woman named Delilah. This is Judges 16 verse 4. So Delilah lived in the valley of Sorek, and there were 5 Philistine kings who said to her, "That trick Samson into telling you why he is so strong and how we can overpower him." So all his enemies were desperately wanting to overpower Samson because they were unable to touch him or touch the hem of his garment also. He was so strong, and they feared Samson and they didn't know what to do. So they asked that you trick Samson into telling why he is strong and how we can overpower him, or tie him up and make him helpless. And they said that to Delilah, "We will give you 1,100 pieces of silver if you do this." So she kept on asking Samson and trying to get him to surrender to the Philistines, to his enemies. So that is what happens. Our enemy is always chasing us Bible says devil walks like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. We need to pray all the time. When we are happy, we should pray. When we are sad, we should pray more. So friends, we see what happens. Delilah compels him. Many times he didn't give the answer. However, finally, as per verse 16, she kept on asking him day after day. He got so sick and tired of her nagging him about it that he finally told her the truth. My hair has never been cut, he said. I have been dedicated to God as a Nazarite from the time I was born. If my hair were cut, I would lose my strength and be as weak as anybody else. So friends, he tells that there has been some rules in his life he has been following. He gives out his secret. In our life as well, there are many times enemy is chasing us. We need to be very alert and watchful all the time. We need to be in the presence of God, read the Bible, be in prayer so that no one may touch us. We need to pray for forces of evil and darkness to go away wherever we are living. So trust God all the time. So we see here that verse 19, Delilah lulled Samson to sleep in her lap and then called a man who cut off Samson's 7 locks of hair. Then she began to torment him, for he had lost all his strength. She shouted, Samson, the Philistines are coming. He woke up and thought, I'll get loose and go free as always. He did not know that the Lord had left him. The Philistines captured him and put his eyes out. They took him to Gaza, chained him with bronze chains, and put him to work grinding at the mill in the prison. But his hair started growing again. Yes, friends, see what a best life Samson was leading, fighting his enemies and having victory. However, when he fell into evil hands, into wrong hands, he lost his strength. So we need to be aware. But God is teaching us that we should always be connected to God. Pray for others. We need to pray for our family members to be protected from all evil. So we see Lord left him and Philistines captured him, put his eyes out. And they chained him and he was put to work at grinding at the mill in the prison. Now the Philistine kings then met together to celebrate and offer great sacrifice to their god Dagon, and they were singing that God gave them victory over their enemy Samson. They were enjoying themselves, and they said, call Samson and let's make him entertain us. When they brought Samson out of the prison, they made him entertain them and made him stand between the pillars. Then what happens? Samson said to the boy who was leading him by the hand. This is Judges chapter 16, verse 26. Samson says to the boy who was leading him, let me touch the pillars that hold up the building. I want to lean on them. And the building was so crowded with men and women. All 5 Philistine kings were there, and there were about 3,000 men and women on the roof watching Samson entertain them. Then Samson prayed as he used to pray, Sovereign Lord, please remember me. Please God, give me my strength just once more, just once more. There are many times in our life we say, God, just this time. Give me one more chance. That's what Samson did. Give me my strength just once more, so that with this one blow, I can get even with the Philistines for putting out my 2 eyes. So Samson took hold of the 2 middle pillars which were holding up the building, and putting one hand on each pillar, he pushed against them and shouted, "Let me die with the Philistines." And he pushed with all his might, and the building fell down on the 5 kings and everyone else. Samson killed more people at his death than he had killed during his life. Yes, friends, so this is how Samson died. At his death, he killed more people than he had killed during his lifetime. When we are in the purpose of God, He says, "Please just once more give me my strength back." Samson prayed. And then what happens? His brothers and rest of his family came to get his body. They took him back and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of his father Manoah. And he was Israel's leader for 20 years. Yes, friends, we see Samson desperately praying after he lost his strength. Just once more, remember me. Give me my strength just once more. And he died with the Philistines and killed so many people, more people at his death than he had killed during his lifetime. So what we see here, a child of God, how he or she should be leading their life. Leading a holy life, trusting God, walking in His paths, and always never failing in promises of God. Repentance in life is very important. So please continue to connect. Let us evangelize. God bless.